The Democrat Media Alliance continues to mock Trump supporters to their faces. That's a bold campaign strategy. AOC and Bernie Sanders and the Democrats as a whole have a patriotism problem. Finally, we have a Trump rally coming up, and apparently people are excited. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. I want you to imagine that every time you greeted somebody, you spit on their shoes, and they wanted you to spit on their shoes. Sounds ridiculous, right? It'd be absurd to do such a thing, right? What if that was custom everywhere you went, and you didn't think anything of it? What if you woke up in the morning, poured your cup of coffee, said goodbye to the wife, gave her a kiss on the way out the door, and spit on her feet? Got to work, shook hands with somebody at the water cooler. Hey, boss, how's life? Spit on his feet. While you're getting a cup of coffee, while you're ordering at the drive-thru. Sounds absurd, right? All this is very absurd, and it is absurd. But that is a problem. It is equal to the problem the Democrat Media Alliance currently face in the United States of America. I'm about to play you video of a CNN panel mocking, not Donald Trump, mocking Donald Trump and his supporters. Their intelligence, they're so stupid. And everybody's been screaming about this all day. And if you haven't seen it yet, your jaw is going to hang open that the Democrats and the media could be that stupid as to do this. But I want to try to make an excuse for them before I play all this for you. They live in a world that is separate from the real world. They live in the world where you spit on people's shoes. And what I mean by that is they wake up every single day. They're greeted only by people in their workplace of people who mock and hate Trump supporters. When they go out to eat, they all live in these big cities like Washington, D.C. and New York. They only talk to people who hate Trump supporters. They walk to and fro around the city. They see people mocking Trump supporters. They see new protests, feminist rallies. Trump supporters are idiots. Trump's the devil. They see people burning Trump in effigy. When they go to church on Sunday, they see people mocking Trump supporters. And that's a big if when they go to church on Sunday. Their kids' school, when they come home, their kids talk about their own teachers mocking Trump supporters. If they're already off in college, they're also learning about mocking Trump supporters. What I'm saying to you is the Democrat Media Alliance is completely lost touch with reality in the United States of America because they are trapped inside of a bubble and they don't realize it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have lived all over the United States. I was born in Ohio, lived there forever, moved to Montana, joined the Marine Corps, California, overseas, Arizona, Washington, D.C., now Houston, Texas. I've lived everywhere. And let me tell you something, and I need you to hear me on this. Where you live 100% matters and does shape the way you see the world. It does. When you live, work, and worship around only people who see things a certain way, and it's very much that way if you're in a liberal newsroom, you don't know about reality. You don't know about the real world. You don't know how your words land with the guy who wakes up and takes a lunch pail to work every single day. You've never strapped on a pair of work boots, and you know what? You look down on people who do. Donald Trump, billionaire playboy from New York City. You can make fun of the golden rooms and all that all you want. He always understood that guy. His father made him grow up around construction workers. He speaks that guy's language, and whether it's true or not, the average working man doesn't feel like Donald Trump looks down on him. There's video after video after video of Donald Trump reaching out to those guys. There was a caravan the other day. Trump's caravan was driving through, saw some firemen, made them pull over, got out, shook their hands. There's a famous video I love, most people have forgotten about it, where Trump was getting on his helicopter outside of the White House. The Marine who's standing guard's cover blew off his head. The President of the United States of America bent over, picked up the cover, put it back on his head, thanked him. That may sound like a small thing. That may sound like a politician. Maybe it is. I will tell you, to people like me, that means a lot. It means a lot. You want to know why Donald Trump, we're going to show you footage later on. You want to know why he has people camping out 2 days ahead of time before his rallies? That's why. People don't feel like he looks down on them. So, there. That's a long setup to what is an ugly video. This is what the media and the Democrats think of you.
And obviously it's false. And look, he also knows deep in his heart that Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. he knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump. That wants to think that Donald Trump's the smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading. Your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is. Sorry, I apologize.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a party that's about to take back power anytime soon. Donald Trump pounced on this, as you can imagine. Quote, Don Lemon, the dumbest man on television with terrible ratings. Ivanka's response was even more savage, in my opinion. Quote, you constantly make fun of half the country and then complain that it is divided. The arrogance, mocking accents, and smug ridicule of this nation's real elites is disgusting. And look, what other way are you supposed to take that? And Donald Trump, his campaign team is outstanding. I don't care if you hate his guts. His campaign team is on point and has been on point all the time. They already have an ad cut with this footage in it. They're going to play that footage across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan. Do you think, I want you to, and this may be difficult for some people, I want you to put yourself in the mind of a guy who works in an auto plant, of a steel worker, of a guy who works construction. I work construction most of my life. You get home after a long day, set your lunch pail down, take your work boots off, kiss the missus, eat a little dinner, sit down, put your feet up, and you watch. You know what, guys? I want you to play the whole thing again. And you sit down finally after a 10, 11-hour day in the sun, put your feet up, and you turn on the TV, and this is what you see about the Democrat Party.
And obviously it's false. And look, he also knows deep in his heart that Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's the smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading. Your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is. Sorry, I apologize.
How's that land for you? Long day at work, come home and see that. Yeah, Donald Trump is going to slaughter anybody he faces in 2020. And you know what? This goes way beyond Trump. If the Democrat Media Alliance does not find a way to at least hide their contempt for the voters they need, they're not winning another election again anytime soon. Look, it's no mystery, okay? I've been in politics. I ran for Congress twice, lost twice, no big deal. But I've been in these rooms with these politicians. I'm still friends with so many of them. Yeah, they talk bad about you sometimes behind closed doors, but always politicians have been smart enough to do it behind closed doors. If this new thing is going to become a thing where you mock Trump voters to their faces, you people aren't ever getting back to power. And you know what? You're so stupid, you don't deserve it. Donald Trump, to his credit, populist that he is, tells the working people, you're the ones who are elite.
You're the great people. You're the great people. You work hard, you pay your taxes, you do all these things, and you were forgotten. They forgot about you. And you're the smartest people. You're the smartest people. You know, when they talk about the elite. The elite. Do you ever see the elite? They're not elite. You're the elite. You are the elite. You're smarter than they are. You make bigger incomes. You've got everything going, you know. So let them keep calling themselves. You ever hear it? Hey, you go to the best schools. You do a tremendous job. You own companies. You work for tremendous salaries. You do all the things that you do. You're talented with your hands, with your mind. And then you hear, The elite has just said, the elite. They're more elite than me. I have better everything than they have, including this.
Man speaks the language of the people. And just in case you were wondering, I know there's somebody out there right now saying, Jesse, you just cherry-picked one interview. It's not like they've been doing this for 3 years. Enjoy.
These forces of intolerance remain determined to undermine and roll back the progress you all have made. This time, they, not you, have an ally in the White House. This time, they have an ally. They're a small percentage of the American people, virulent people. Some of them the dregs of society.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Anyone who supported this president is, at best, looking the other way on racism, at best.
Oh, no, they're stupid. All the research, all the social science research and data since have proven that it's racist, white.
Well, good luck with that. I still remember that Hillary moment. A lot of people argue, I argue it as well. That's the day she lost the election. Stop bad-mouthing the voters you need to win elections. I can't believe I have to say this to people who are professionals in politics, but yeah. Coming up next, former Green Beret and president of Security Studies Group Jim Hansen joins me to talk about this and some other things. Hang on. But first, let's talk about betdsi.com/Jesse. Promo code Jesse120, by the way. You need to stop waiting around and make a deposit. I've made my deposit. Go make yours. They have experience. Experience is everything in any industry, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know the restaurants I eat at when I'm out and about? If I'm in a new place, I don't go to the new hotshot place on the corner. Give me the mom and pop shop who's been doing it for a decade. BetDSI has been doing it for 2 of those, 2 decades. You know why they have the fastest payouts in the industry? 1, they know what they're doing. 2, they know what you like. All these other gambling sites, well, thanks for your money. We'll try to get back to you next month. Just make sure you check in between the hours of 2 and 3 on the 3rd Thursday of the month. Maybe you can have your... It's not that way at BetDSI. You go there, you make a deposit, which you should do, start betting, start winning, you can get your money. And it's not just football. We all know we've only got 1 football game left. Football, baseball, basketball, NHL, UFC, politics, reality TV. Go to betdsi.com/Jesse and use the promo code Jesse120. Again, promo code Jesse120. Joining me now, president of the Security Studies Group and former Green Beret. We love the guy even though he's Army, Jim Hansen. Jim, first of all, we need to break down exactly what it is you're wearing. I have no issue with the hat, but are you under the impression we are in Vietnam?
Dude, I am wearing my man of the people garb, camouflage Trump hat. The only thing is, this is literally the most expensive shirt I own. My wife got it at an outlet mall. It's a Valentino silk camouflage shirt, $400.
Well, thanks for dressing up for us, Jim. I appreciate it. All right, in all seriousness, we have this clip heard round the world of Don Lemon and Rick Wilson and this other guy for CNN making fun of the voters. And I beat it up enough in the first segment. My question to you is this. I never like to make the mistake of, and actually you're the one who's pounded this into my brain before too, I never like to make the mistake of assuming my enemies are stupid, but I don't like to assume they're geniuses either. Jim, we played a montage last segment of person after person after person in the Democrat Media Alliance, major candidates, major media figures mocking Trump's voters. That's stupid. Why are they doing it? How can they be that stupid?
Because they're arrogant, elitist, self-appointed moral arbiters who are going to tell the rest of us unwashed masses how to live our lives because we're too stupid to do it. And guess what? They're wrong. They just don't know it. They can't help themselves, dude. And I thank them. I thank God for making them that arrogant, because they're doing half our work for us. All we have to do is stand and point and go, look, did you see that? They're talking about you. That's it. And thank them.
Here's my question, though, Jim, because I went off about this. I feel like it's because they live in a bubble. They live, work, and worship only in a bubble. Unless you actively seek out conservative media, you never have to get confronted with it. But then how do you explain Donald Trump? How does he get it and they don't? The dude's a New York billionaire who grew up in gold-plated penthouses.
You know what the funny thing is? He's kind of like a combination of Liberace and, you know, the guy down the street, because his house looks like Liberace lives there. Not the White House, but his apartments. He does it like a Roman emperor. But then he grew up in construction, and he long ago identified with the working man. He identified with the guys, the foremans, the guys who are slinging bricks and hauling stuff up the skyscrapers. And he's like, those are my people. And it works. He is one of the few people, you know, every once in a while you run into a rich person who can act like a normal person. They're not just not rich, but they understand that regular people are what matters. And Trump gets that better than any rich person I've ever seen.
All right, you're the man to ask about this. Shifting gears here today, Donald Trump proposed some kind of peace deal in the Middle East. What exactly was he proposing? I know, like most Americans, I hear them describing territories and places, and I don't understand exactly what the situation is and what they're talking about. What are they talking about?
Here's the problem. The Palestinians 40 plus years ago decided that they could not tolerate sharing the land where both they and the Israelis live with those dirty, nasty Jews. And it's a completely, you know, racist, it's a religious supremacist thing, and they're completely insane about it. And so every time any reasonable plan to split things up and say, you guys live here, you guys live here, you guys stop blowing them up. Well, the Palestinians are like, no, we're not going to stop blowing them up. As a matter of fact, we're going to push them all into the sea and we're going to take this whole area. So Trump's making what is a completely good faith attempt to say, what if we gave you more than you have a right to expect, more than you've earned by your behavior, and give you have the Israelis stop doing some things that are bothering you. You get some choice territories and things like this. But you got to stop blowing up the Israelis. And we're going to see what they say. I have a feeling it's going to be, nah, we'd rather blow the Jews up.
Okay, so I think a lot of people get confused about Palestine. So there's really no central leadership. There's no reasonable person in their government to say, this is actually a decent deal. We can have real facilities, have a real life here. There's really no chance of that. I mean, look, I agree with you from everything I've seen, but there's no chance.
There is a very, very slim chance. The guy who's running things now is dying. All right, so there's a bit of toing and froing about who's going to be the next tyrannical scumbag. The problem is the only people with a shot at it are tyrannical scumbags. So there is very little chance. There are some decent Palestinian people. Let's not pretend this is all of them. But for 40 plus years, their constitution, everything they've said and done, everything they teach their kids in school is so heinous and so unprepared for any kind of peace that I don't see a way that they can actually get to here. So this is kind of the prelude to when Trump gets reelected, the second term where we let the Israelis dictate what happens. I assume there's a great quote that says the Palestinians never miss a chance to miss a chance. They're going to miss this chance, and it's the best deal they were ever going to get. And then what Trump's going to do is he's going to say, okay, the Israelis won the war, right? You guys failed to try and win the peace. Now the Israelis can dictate it, and they're going to get to do what they want.
Who else is backing him, or I should say, who else would back him in an endeavor? I'm glad you went ahead and lobbied that out there, because I assume this was Trump's play for something else. So let's say that happens. We assume he's going to get reelected. He crams it down Palestine's throat. All right, now here's your new deal. Is everybody over there going to freak out and start yelling about Israel? Or do we have the Saudis on our side now? Who do we have over there who's going to back that deal?
One thing you should remember, the first overseas trip Donald Trump took was to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to meet all the Islamic leaders. All right. And he sat down and he talked to the new MBS, his buddy, who, the left hates. Trump figured out this guy is actually a reformer. And he said, if you guys would stop hating on Israel, we could both hate on Iran, who's the actual problem. And he got an agreement on that. The Saudis and the Emiratis and the rest of the Gulf Arabs, they need economic help. They need modernization. They need something to do when all the oil runs out, right? So they're trying to modernize, and the Israelis can help. So instead of wasting their effort to hate, join in the 2 minutes hate of the Israelis every day, they have agreed to pull back on that a bit and go ahead and at least be a partner for a better relationship. And now the Palestinians are kind of on their own.
Now, why do the Saudis need economic help? I understood that if there's one thing they have, it's cash and plenty of it because they're sitting on a mountain of oil. Is that not the case? They in trouble?
Well, think about one thing. You know who the world's biggest producer of oil is? It's us. You and me, buddy. And that really makes things difficult for the Saudis and the rest of them. That keeps the price of oil down, and it's not a long-term business. There is an end to oil at some point, and technology will bypass it. So the Saudis actually have a plan to try and modernize their country, to try and diversify, to try and become a tech center and some other things. Good idea. They're letting the women drive, they're modernizing, they're acting like a modern nation. Consequently, they need, the ability to become part of the world economy in ways that don't just rely on oil. And so that's why the Palestinians now are almost more of a problem for them, whereas before they were a way to cause everybody else problems. So I think the Palestinians really should take a look and see who their friends are. They haven't got many left.
Well, I support the Saudi efforts to modernize. I support them giving rights to all people, including women. The one thing I do not support, though, is giving the right of women to drive. Jim Hansen, Security Studies Group, thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure, brother.
We have a lot more show coming up. Hang on. The Democrat Party of 2020, not lumping the whole history of it, but the Democrat Party of 2020 has a patriotism problem. And people get uncomfortable when you say that. And look, it doesn't do me any pleasure to say that. I don't feel good about saying it, but what else am I supposed to take from this? And I understand that the history of the world is one political party in whatever nation you talk about, pointing fingers at the other party, saying they hate the country, that person hates the country. I wouldn't say that, people, if we were arguing about taxes. I wouldn't say it if we were arguing about spending, although I don't understand how you could possibly spend your nation into debt and claim you love your country. But still, let's say I would give you that. I wouldn't even say it about an issue I feel passionate about, but some don't, abortion. I wouldn't go there. But I will say it when it comes to illegal immigrants, when it comes to illegal immigration. How can you stand up, claim to love your country, which is made up of your people, by saying your country and your people should be flooded by citizens of somewhere else? That doesn't work. The math on that doesn't work. I don't get to say, hey, I love my kids. I think we'll take in every homeless kid off the street. Well, I can't afford to feed everybody, then my kids will starve. It doesn't work that way, ladies and gentlemen. Either you love your country or you don't. If you were to look at the modern-day Democrat Party, what exactly would you do differently off of their platform? What would you change if you were trying to bankrupt the United States of America and bring it down? Tell me, I'm all ears. It does me no pleasure to say it. I'm all ears. I want to know. We have Medicare for all. What did we hear yesterday? Elizabeth Warren's plans add up to $100 trillion. That's financial collapse, ladies and gentlemen, long before you ever get to $100 trillion. That's the Weimar Republic, where you have wheelbarrows full of cash that you're shoveling into the fireplace because your money's not worth anything anymore. That's Banana Republic stuff. That's people taking to the streets with their weapons stuff because there's no more food and gasoline. It looks like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That's what that is. That's not patriotism. And when you say to illegal immigrants, you're all welcome here, flood our border, we deserve it, that's hatred of your own country. And I will say this, and I struggle to find a historical equivalent to this. The modern left does hate the United States of America. They are actively working against it. And I tell you, I talk history every single day. I struggle to find a historical equivalent to that. Even the Bolsheviks, the worst disgusting people, the worst people in the history of mankind, weren't actively working to destroy their own country. They wanted to destroy their own government. but they didn't throw open their borders and say everybody's welcome. Nevertheless, that's what we have now. And that's not an abnormality. That's the platform of the modern Democrat Party. We all remember that debate where they were asked, would you provide health care to illegal immigrants? Every single Democrat on stage running for president raised their hands. Every single one of them. AOC's out with another doozy. Here she is.
Organizing is about tipping people off if you start to see that ICE and CBP are in communities to try to keep people safe. I'm not here to reform some of these systems when we talk about immigration. I'm here because Senator Sanders has actually committed to breaking up ICE and CBP. That's why I'm here.
Informing illegal immigrants if ICE is in the neighborhood? Breaking up ICE? ICE is not some Gestapo group. ICE is just a group tasked with deporting people who are here illegally. That's all ICE's mission is. We are now actively protecting illegal immigrants. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not some dog catcher in some podunk town. That's a United States Congresswoman from the city of New York City. What are we to do with this? I mean, Tom Homan has a great question.
It's an extremely stupid statement made by somebody I never consider real smart anyways. But here's the elected lawmaker. She's a congresswoman standing on a stage telling people how to obstruct ICE, tipping off people that ICE is looking for. And she needs to realize 9 out of 10 of everybody ICE arrested last year was a convicted criminal or pending criminal charges. Let me talk about a few. Last year, 137,000 criminals, 2,000 were murders, 12,000 sex offenses, 45,000 assaults, 62,000 drug offenses, 10,000 weapons offenses, and she wants the community to tip these people off. The ICE is in their neighborhood operating. ICE's job is already extremely dangerous. Now she's making it more dangerous. And she's one of these Democrats keeps saying, no one's above the law. The president is above the law. We need to impeach the president because he's not above the law. But apparently illegal aliens are above the law because ICE isn't allowed to arrest them. It's a ridiculous statement.
It's more than a ridiculous statement. It's flat out un-American, and it's worse than that. It's anti-American, ladies and gentlemen. That is anti the United States of America. If you want your borders open, if you want illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants, to be tipped off before they could be apprehended and deported by ICE, you hate your own country. I'm sorry, I don't have a nicer way to put it, and I'm not going to change. Bernie Sanders backed her up all the way. Quote, "My first executive orders will be to reverse every single thing President Trump has done to demonize and harm immigrants, including his racist and disgusting Muslim ban." Clearly, Bernie Sanders is an idiot. There is no Muslim ban. There is no demonization of immigrants. We are talking about enforcement of our borders and the deportation of illegal immigrants, yet Democrats consistently try to conflate the two to confuse you because they think you don't know any better. Nevertheless, you happen to be smarter than the people in that party. Ilhan Omar, long the stalwart of liberty that she is, came out and she quoted the Democrats' favorite line of the Constitution, which is this: "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Retweet if your immigrant ancestors wouldn't be let in this means-tested immigration policy was in place, which is funny because, well, never mind, I'm not going to say that. I don't need to get myself in trouble today. But that was a joke for those of you who don't have your pocket Constitution handy. The two favorite lines Democrats have from the Constitution are that you're tired, you're poor, and the separation of church and state, which is ironic because neither of those lines are actually in the United States Constitution. That is a poem on the Statue of Liberty. It is not our immigration policy. And anybody, again, who wants to flood our workforce, our hospitals. Have you ever looked into the hospital closures and where they take place most often in the United States of America? I suggest you do that. You may find something funny. It's weird how they're all right along the southern border. I can't imagine why that is. And this is a well-established fact. This is not exactly controversial. Illegal immigrants use the emergency room system of the United States of America as the family doctor because nobody can be refused treatment in this country. You walk into an emergency room, little Timmy has the sniffles, you get your treatment, you skip out because you can't pay, won't pay. I know these things because I have several friends on the Border Patrol. Every now and then they will have to stop by by emergency rooms. I had a buddy stop by an emergency room once because a friend's wife was going into labor. He walked through the emergency room. It was packed full of people, went in, saw the missus, patted everybody on the back, turned around, walked back out. 2 minutes later, the emergency room had emptied out. Why? Because he happened to be in his Border Patrol uniform at the time. That's weird. Coming up next, Will Chamberlain. Hang on. Joining me now, a friend of mine, publisher of Human Events and regular on the show, Will Chamberlain. Will, the public is not watching for the most part. We see the TV ratings when it comes to all this impeachment stuff. Nevertheless, there are still important things going on, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a whole slew of things. There's been a few important court decisions that have come out. You had the Supreme Court essentially get rid of an injunction on the public charge rule so they can actually kick people out of the country who are not financially contributing. And there's a lot of other news as well.
Hold on. Can you expand on that just a little bit? Because I think a lot of people hear that public charge and their eyes glaze over and they don't even understand what this whole thing is about. What is it actually about?
So, I mean, the question is whether or not it's okay to remove people or to prevent people from becoming citizens if they are not able to sustain themselves financially. And that's a pretty basic concept of immigration around the world, where you have to be able to contribute. You shouldn't just be going on public welfare. But in the Ninth Circuit, they challenged this rule and said that the administration shouldn't be allowed to make essentially admissibility determinations based on whether you can pay for yourself, whether you are going to be dependent on public benefits.
Okay, so we got a win there. Why did we get a win there? All we hear about is Trump's judges. Trump judges. He's packing the courts full of judges. Was this the win for those judges, or was just this basic common sense law?
No, I mean, it's a win for those judges, and it's also a win against a lot of these nationwide injunctions. I mean, there's been something like 40 nationwide injunctions put in place by lower federal courts, which are those courts saying on their own, single judges saying on their own that a policy from the executive branch needs to be stopped because it doesn't comply with the law. And there was a very, very strong concurring opinion from Neil Gorsuch, confirmed by, nominated by President Trump, confirmed by a Republican Senate, explaining that these nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional, that they give a single district court judge the power, that more power than anyone else in the country, effectively, to stop an executive branch policy, more power than the president even.
Now, can I make the argument, Will, why would I be happy about that? Because at some point in time, another Democrat's going to be president, and we're going to want one of our judges, when we're packing the courts, to stop it. And I really mean that. If we're packing the courts and we're going to own the courts, why would we want to take power away from the courts?
I mean, I think that when it comes to our ability to enforce laws period. I think the strength of the executive branch is actually something I'm for. And I think a lot of Republicans think that it's better to have a weak executive branch. I actually don't agree with that, because in a world of a weak executive branch, you have a government that is completely constrained from acting when there's actually an emergency, for example, or implementing law, or enforcing a law on the books that, does something like close the borders or increase border security or build a border wall. And I mean, I think if you want to live in a lawful society where the executive branch is able to do the things that it's been authorized to do by Congress, you don't want to put unelected judges in a position to stop them frivolously, especially just on their own. I mean, it's basically, even if there's something unlawful that a future judge does, they'll be able to get it stopped, but they'll have to go all the way to the Supreme Court, or they'll have to get a lot more legal consensus than just one single district court judge being to stop the federal government in its tracks.
What if I don't want to live in a lawful society? What if I just want no laws at all?
Well, then I got a candidate for you, because Bernie Sanders is really, really doing great in Iowa and New Hampshire. And I mean, he's there's all sorts of things he'll be able to do. I mean, if you're not for law, then he's not for it either. If you're for Hamas, he's with you there too. I mean, he just came out with a rejection of the president's plan on Israel that said that Israel needed to end the occupation as the basis for the plan. And it's like, okay, well, you clearly that's the Hamas line, that Israel is occupying its own homeland. So,
Okay, now I'm glad you brought up Bernie Sanders. I was going to go there for a minute. We're stepping away from your nerd laws here for a minute.
That's fine.
We're going to talk about Bernie. Why is he winning now? I just saw an Emerson poll came out. I think you were the one who put it out there. He's slaughtering the field. Even if that's an outlier, he's either winning or close to winning on these early states like Iowa. Bernie Sanders wins Iowa. That's going to set the world on fire. Is this because they all piled on him and there's a public backlash? Is it just because Joe Biden sucks and he's so weak? What is it?
I mean, I think he's mostly picked up the Warren vote because I think Elizabeth Warren made an enormous mistake by trying to accuse him of being a sexist without evidence. I don't know if you remember that CNN debate where Elizabeth Warren, rather there was just this accusation that Bernie Sanders had told Elizabeth Warren that a woman couldn't become president. And Elizabeth Warren leaked that charge. And then Bernie was questioned about the debate, denied it flatly. And then the CNN anchor proceeded as though he had admitted it and asked Elizabeth Warren, how did you feel when Bernie Sanders said this sexist thing to you? And it's like, I mean, that led to the Bernie supporters. And I think most people looking at Elizabeth Warren like she's a snake and she's a liar. This is the woman who said she was an American Indian to become a professor at Harvard Law School without evidence. I mean, and I think that as a result, Elizabeth Warren was trying to capture the same sort of radical lefty voters that Sanders was. And I think a lot of those voters didn't like what Warren did and moved to Sanders.
All right, circling back to the court again real quick. I'm sorry to nerd out on this, but I actually do care. What big cases are coming, or are there any big cases coming for the Supreme Court? Now, I feel like these things always blindside us because no one pays attention until there's a big landmark decision, and then you see all the nutso people protesting on the Supreme Court steps. Is there something else big coming down?
Yeah, so the Ninth Circuit just handed down a really nasty ruling that said that Arizona's law banning ballot harvesting was unconstitutional or unlawful. I forget exactly which. So ballot harvesting. So ballot harvesting is this California process where you can have people go around and collect mail-in ballots and then deliver them in a package to the ballot collecting agency. The opportunities for fraud with that are just enormous, right? Like not one person has to personally send in their ballot, but rather one person come in with a stack of 500 ballots and say, here, look at all the 500 people who voted for the candidate. And I mean, people think that this sort of fraud is just, it's endemic in our history. People don't understand voter fraud is endemic in our history. Lyndon Johnson won his first Senate election based on very, very clear ballot fraud, discovering a new ballot box full of 500 ballots that had his name on it when the race was extremely close. So this ballot harvesting stuff is clearly open to fraud. But the Ninth Circuit said it was effectively a violation of the Voting Rights Act to not allow ballot harvesting. And that's almost certainly going to get heard by the Supreme Court. I hope it gets struck down because it seems quite obvious that this is essentially a process to make it easier to commit voter fraud. To election fraud. So,
Will Chamberlain, publisher of Human Events, man, we always get smarter. Well, at least everyone else does. I'm already really smart. Thank you for making us all smarter today.
Thanks, Jesse.
Appreciate it, bud. All right, we got a Trump rally tonight in Jersey and another one with yours truly on Thursday. I'll tell you about it in a sec. Hang on. What you just witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, before this show started was Donald Trump doing a rally in New Jersey. Did you see all those people screaming and yelling? Do you know, look at this, there are people camped out 2 days ahead of time before that, really? 2 days ahead of time. People, that what you're seeing right there is not South Carolina. That's not Texas. That's not Alabama. That's not some blood red state where they're frothing at the mouth. That's New Jersey. Blue New Jersey loves Donald Trump so much, they filled up a stadium for him tonight. And I'll tell you something else. After I saw that crowd, and the fact that Donald Trump actually went there, I'm not sure we can rule out New Jersey. People from New Jersey, especially rural New Jersey, I just nailed that word rural on tape again, by the way. People who live in rural New Jersey will tell you there are large portions of that state who have had enough. They've had enough corruption. And not that long ago, they had a Republican governor, a two-time Republican governor, Chris Christie. Don't take out New Jersey from possibly being in play for 2020, especially if Democrats do something insane like nominate Bernie Sanders, which is looking more and more likely by the day. Donald Trump is a political phenom. Barack Obama was a political phenom. Every now and then you get these guys that come along and people just flock to hear them speak. Sometimes it's difficult to explain, but when you're packing stadiums like that as a Republican in the state of New Jersey, you have something figured out. All right, I hope you enjoyed the rally. I know you enjoyed the show. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow. And don't forget, we have a live rally, Trump rally, from Des Moines, Iowa this Thursday. And guess what? As a special treat to you, yours truly is going to be in studio right here covering it live. Going back to me so you get to see my face, and then going back to the President of the United States. You know, we're both the two most important people in the world. It's hard. I get confused. See you tomorrow.